Hello everyone, welcome to Wrestling with Space Out Joe. And to my left is Pat, and he will be doing his puncher review for this past weekend's No Mercy and Wrestle Dream WCW Full Brawl 1996.
So, WCW Fall Brawl 1996 happened on September 15th, 1996. Coincidence. From the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That is one of the longest places I think I've ever said for a pay-per-view. So, attendance was 11,300. And the commentators were, he doesn't have it written down, so Tony Schiavone, Dusty, and Bobby the Brain Heenan. And special thanks to Kevin Pantoja on 411 Mania for me stealing his review. In the midst of their boom period, WCW held their annual Fall Brawl event. As usual, it headlined by War Games, but with a bit of a twist. It wasn't just two factions or teams this time. WCW was on one side, and the newly formed NWO was on the other. This is just the second pay-per-view in the post-NWO era, and would really kickstart the angle that was supposed to lead to their downfall the following year. It is the fourth of 8 Fall Brawl pay-per-views. You want a war, you're going to get one. Those infamous words by Scott Hall started the video package, which recaps some of the NWO build, including the recent concerns that Sting has joined them. The fourth man on each of the main event teams has yet to be decided. But let's get to the first match. DDP versus Chavo Guerrero. DDP is on the verge of breaking out pretty soon. Paige and Eddie Guerrero had issues over the Battle Bowl ring. But we get Chavo instead of Eddie here. Chavo is a few years away from his infamous Pepe gimmick. Chavo takes to the skies early, but none of it looks particularly crisp. Excuse me on that. Though mostly new to WCW, Chavo maintains the advantage for a while. DDP turns it around through the crowd, though the crowd doesn't seem to really care about Chavo to really give him any sort of sympathy. Chavo avoids the diamond cutter and begins to rally. He springboards in with a clothesline, but again, it looks awkward. They make use of the 2-ring setup for Fall Brawl as DDP launches him over into the second one. DDP brings the crowd to their feet with an awesome-looking spinning powerbomb to a near fall. Even though he's a heel, the crowd pops hard for the diamond cutter, which ends things. So the bad news about this match is there wasn't really much to it, and you're probably not going to remember it in probably about 30 minutes. The good news is, for WCW, not remembering a match in 30 minutes doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. This was relatively fine here. Chavo was pretty green, and DDP was getting better. And this was before his superstardom would come in a matter of months. I gave it a C. Definitely need to take a swig of water for the next match.
Wait, submission?
Yep. Mean Gene led the viewers through a video package that recapped the NWO angle. A submission match, Ice Train with Teddy Long versus Scott Norton. By this point, it felt like this feud had been going on for about a year. Teddy Long looks like he ate another Teddy Long. It's amazing how much skinnier he looked later in his career. Maybe he kept using the same old suits from being in his fat days, which is why they were so baggy. The weirdest thing about this match is that A, not many guys use submissions at this time, and B, neither guy was really a submission expert. Ice Train applies the first, a camera clutch, but is uncomfortable, so he moves to a chin lock before giving up on submission entirely. That's the whole point of the match. The crowd might as well be sitting on their hands. Train locks in an armbar as the referee uses the microphone to ask if Norton gives up. Tapping out wasn't necessarily a thing yet, as Norton gets near a win. Long gets on the apron and distracts him. Train applies a full Nelson and Norton taps. So I guess that was a thing. Yeah, he didn't talk about the match a lot because there really wasn't really much to talk about. Snooze fest, dull, boring, even for a 7-minute match. F.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it was bad. Mexican Heavyweight Championship. Conan, who is the champion, with Jimmy Hart versus Juventud Guerrera. During Juvi's entrance, he trips backwards and he trips backwards over the steps, and it was great. Mike Tenay joins commentary to save them. Conan is already in full Cholo mode. Tenay plugged this being a big man against a small man, and Conan proves him right with a vicious release German suplex within the first minute. He then just tosses him over outside like a ragdoll. Juvi fires back up with the suicide dive. They get through a very contrived spot where Juvi tries to springboard off the guardrail, but does so in such a slow fashion that Conan just stands there and watches. Luckily, he powerbombs him outside to make up for it. Conan backdrops Juvi onto the ropes and of the second ring before powerbombing him hard back into the ring. Juvi, like Chavo earlier, seems a bit nervous, and it hurts some of his spots. Shivani calls a sunset flip attempt a backslide because he's a moron. Juvi comes close with a few roll-ups, excuse me, but looks way overmatched. He does score on a 450 splash, which was his highlight. Conan hits the power drop, which is basically a second rope outsider's edge variation to retain. Sloppy, but far from bad. They were trying and it was fun, but this felt like, hey, look what I can do instead of a fight. I give it a C. Next match, Chris Benoit versus Chris Jericho. It is the first pay-per-view match for Chris Jericho. Benoit was way over since the shows in Horseman Country. They come to their feet just seeing Jericho get slammed down by his hair. Benoit places Jericho in a lion tamer, making me think that this is where Jericho got the idea for it. At one point, Jericho tries a high-risk back elbow and nearly breaks his neck on the apron. It legit scared me. He was fine though, and moved to doing a power bomb that Conan would have been jealous of. They trade vicious chops before Benoit works the ribs. Tenay should have stuck around because commentary is lost at times. Benoit hits the diving headbutt for 2. I can't help but cringe seeing him do that move now. He gets some fast-paced roll-ups and strike exchanges. Jericho nails a tombstone instead of covering. He plays to the crowd, who wants no part of him. Jericho follows with a clothesline and top rope Frankenstein from near falls. Benoit crotches Jericho up top and wins with a huge back suplex. It's Benoit and Jericho. Yeah, of course you know it's going to be good. Maybe a little rough for a white meat babyface Jericho in Horseman Country. But this is their first encounter on pay-per-view, and obviously they would go on to have really great ones. But they can but it's not an insult to say they can start with a B-.
Was that an action night or?
It isn't.
Ah.
Next match, WCW Championship, Cruiserweight Championship, Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Super Callow. In 10 years, Rey Mysterio will be world champion in WWE and clearly bulked up. Mike Tenay is back to shame the rest of the booth. Fan chat's boring while Callow gets in some offense. Who told Callow that his look was actually good?
Love it.
I get that it's based off of a rap group, but he looks absurdly dumb. After being hot for Benoit, the fans are back to being mostly quiet here. Callow keeps things slow outside the ring using the ropes for leverage. On a powerbomb, he also nails a solid-looking somersault. Outside though, he can't keep Rey down. Callow continues to keep things grounded until Rey gets an opening and delivers a somersault of his own to the outside. They do some work in both rings, which I appreciate. If you're gonna give you 2 rings, why not make the most of it? Rey gets in a lot of high-flying stuff to build towards the finish. Callow misses a drop kick and lands awkwardly. Rey triple springboards from one ring to the other into a Rana and allows him to retain. Yeah, so cool ending. But this one is a little bit long. The action was fine, mostly because of Rey, as he did carry the whole thing. But I guess a cool finish does make up for some decent action. C+. Next match, WCW World Tag Team Championship. Harlem Heat with Colonel Robert Parker and Sister Sherry versus the Nasty Boys.
This and DDP and Johnny B. Bad. There's always a combo.
Always.
See, one or the other. Some pay-per-views even both.
Yeah. Commentary quickly notes that this will be nothing like the previous 2 matches. Yeah, no kidding.
Well, there's 4 great talents here.
Kevin says, I like Harlem Heat, and I share that sentiment. But most pay-per-view matches I see of theirs from the Sherry Parker era were garbage. The Nasty Boys are the masters of clubbering, according to Dusty.
That's a big fan of Nasty Boys.
Well,
you've seen their work.
Yeah. Which leads me to think that I like the Blackjacks better.
Alright.
I
have these right. I have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
I just realized we're on the wrong show.
Yeah. Well, they clubber Stevie. Heenan calls it the World Clubbering Wrestling. The teams go at it for what seems like forever, and almost none of it interesting. Each time the Nasty Boys get close, Sherry gets involved, while Parker limps around with his cane. The crowd does seem pretty invested, though. Alicia Fox has ruined the scissors kick for me. Watching Booker wind up here for made me cringe until he connected, and I remembered he actually does it correctly. Nubs ends up with a hot tag and hits some shit-looking offense. Again, they come close to winning, only for Parker's distraction to set Sherry up, hitting Nubs with a cane. Harlem Heat retains. Yeah, so that was about 15 minutes of my life I'll never get back. It was bad, and it was way too goddamn long. At least the submission match was only 7 minutes early in the show. F. Done with commentary for the night. Mike Tenay interviews Randy Savage. Savage says that he's going to hit a grand slam tonight before heading back to Hollywood Havoc to rip Hogan's Black Heart and the WCW Championship from him. Not one of Savage's best, but mostly fine though. Next match, The Giant versus Randy Savage. Since this is WCW, The Giant comes out to the Dungeon of Doom theme here. Finally, someone figures out and plays the NWO theme as Savage, pounces on the Giant. They brawl outside a bit until Giant takes over and wears down Savage inside. The crowd looks away from the match, maybe due to a fight or something, and commentary makes note of it, suggesting there could be some controversy out there. They then spend other moments watching for a run-in from the ramp. They know the deal. Savage impressively slams Giant to a Thunderer's pop. This brings Hogan to distract Savage after he nails the big elbow. Hogan goes him to the entrance, and of course it's a trap. Hall and Nash beat him up with a chair, while referee Nick Patrick, who has been in the NWO's pocket, ignores it all. Again, why would WCW assign him to this match? Savage is rolled inside for an easy pinfall. Yeah, not great, but at least it was short and the crowd seemed into it. D. Mike Tenay stands with Team WCW consisting of Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, and Lex Luger. The question Sting's motives. Arn says that WCW lost an icon. Sting walks in and pleads his case, saying it wasn't him that attacked Luger last week. Luger refuses to believe him, despite Sting always believing in him being a shady piece of shit throughout his career. Sting walks off saying he'd see them in a while. Why did Sting wait till the day of the show to tell them all this stuff? Is your guess is as good as mine. Because we don't. Because, well, yeah. Because.
Vince booked it.
Yeah. Sorry, it jumped on me here. War Games, Team NWO, which was Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and member to be announced, versus Team WCW, Arn Anderson, Lex Luger, Ric Flair, and Sting. The focal point of the match is the Sting angle, and whether or not he has turned on WCW. For the first time, the rest of the team stay in the back, as opposed to ringside. Arn Anderson and Scott Hall kick things off. They're good choices to start since Hall still cared at this point in his career, and Arn was always solid. They trade stuff for a 5-minute interval, and of course, the heels win the coin toss, and out comes Big Sexy. And the numbers game proves too much for Arn. Now the intervals are down to 2 minutes, so Arn doesn't have to take a beating for too long. Luger evens up the score, and it works well since he's a good hot tag person. He gets to hit screaming clotheslines. Things come down for the final minute, and nobody has an upper hand. Hogan is out next, saving the surprise member for last. Hogan does not get hot tag stuff, as he ends up getting his ass kicked by Arn and Lex for a few seconds. The heels turn around and hold serve. Ric Flair is next to Thunder's Ovation. Remember, they're in Horseman Country. They chanted, "We want Flair," before he even showed up. He gets in one ring and calls them over to him. Hogan goes first, and in a great twist, Flair gets to mostly no-sell. He brings out the brass knuckles and lays into all three members before strutting his ass off. Sting runs down as the final NWO member, causing commentary to pretty much become depressed. I'm sorry, I didn't say it right. Sting comes out as a final NWO member.
They look alike. You don't mind factors.
Yeah. The crowd seems deflated as he beats up Team WCW. They dominate the faces until the real Sting shows up, and the confused crowd pops. Sting goes after his fake double ganger first before hitting every heel in sight. Sting does the work by himself before looking at Luger and shouting, "Is that good enough for you?" Sting walks out and leaves his guys underhanded. The NWO recovers, and Sting puts Luger in a Scorpion Deathlock while Hogan applies a front face lock. Patrick calls for the bell to end it. yeah, it's not necessarily the best War Games match. As more or less the ending's more important than the rest of the match itself, which is completely serviceable.
WCW.
Yeah.
WCW, yeah.
I'm giving this a B-, which for WCW main events might as well be an A+. Again, completely serviceable. Told the story, even though that had some weak parts, and will have weak parts in the future. They did it good tonight. Am I missing anything else in the show?
Luger crawls to the back. John Sting. Stinger.
Then anyway, continues the attack on everybody after the bell. Flair and Anderson take out the Outsiders as Savage runs out. He corners Hogan, but the Giant and the Outsiders are back, and they take out Savage. Elizabeth runs out to protect Savage, who she apparently still loves despite her angle earlier in the year. She throws herself on Savage only to get spray paint on her back. Hogan and the NWO kill a ton of time just bullshitting. Overall, I'm going to give the show C+.
That will be A+.
Yeah. Minus the tag team match and a submission match that is only 7 minutes but feels like a goddamn hour. This is a good show. And it had good stuff throughout the card. Again, minus those 2 matches. And more importantly, the good matches at least got some time to show out. C+.
Change on shot at 8. A little too high.
Yeah.
8.07. That'll do for this. We'll be back on Monday. No prediction review. This is First Lane. We're probably away. We'll be back on Monday with our First Lane review and our virtual review of TNA Final Resolution 2011. See you then.
See you then.